meeting the people in their comfort zones, like the banter bars, the football fields, and the gators, and the school outreach, which includes the creative art, in order to cater for all sects, irrespective of tribe, creed, or color. Again, we are talking about the radio, TV, and all social media platforms. And we have caravans, drama, poetry, songs. That is also catering for all forms of individuals. We also have the women's sensitization, like the CAFOs, because we realize that some of the women are not aware of their rights, and we don't need to go in for to further explain why or how, but we all know that in our homes these do happen. Again, the second one we have is creation of a conducive environment where children will be able to freely and fearlessly express themselves. We have the children's spot, where we will have children who are going to be interviewed or asked questions based on the TRC. They are going to have privacy set up, and again they are going to be. We talked about the creative art already, yes. Again, they are going to have the opportunity to clearly express themselves, and in this, they are going to have their privacy, and there is trust that is already needed, and the confidence should be built. Therefore, we recommend that training would be provided for those who are going to be responsible for these children, so that they would know the how, the when, and how best to reach to these children and to get their confidence. An example is to follow their passion and what they like doing, like their hobbies. If a child likes playing football, you take the child to the football field and play the ball with the child, then you would get what you want and how best you want it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so in terms of gender also, we talked about very important and key issues that are very well concerned to us as a country, and it is important that in this transitional justice period, we look into them. One, we've realized that there is a imbalance in representation of women in this country. Women are termed as the clapping class, the wine class, the followers, the dancing class in political parties. So we are calling on the government, the IEC, the political parties, to respect this quota system, if there is existing one, if there is none, to ensure that it is there in terms of representation. The second one also, we talked about reform and enforcement of laws and policies to ensure the protection of women and children, as in the CEDAW Act and the Maputo Protocol, to make sure that these things are in place so that women can be given the courage for them to participate very well. The other one is creation of conducive environment where children will be able to freely and fearlessly express themselves. This has to do with your Nopil Halanga, Itenkung. No, we want the children for them to talk. We want the children for them to express their views and issues on things so that they will be able to know these things. It cannot be done if we men are not supporting the women in those things. That we also need to ensure that women in this country are not only seen as the second class, like there's the chairperson, the VP. No. Who says that Fatmata Jahumpa cannot be the president? Who says that Fatou Dieng cannot be the president? Who says that Umi Diop cannot be the president? Of course, yes, they can be. So we must make sure that we have protocols, we have rules and laws that will govern these electoral processes for them to be well represented. We also talked about the government to ensure that the gender quotas in the legislative promotes women's representative in politics by trying to eliminate surface and structural discrimination against women. Let's say, for example, they say the Kanifing municipality, okay, because it's the biggest municipality, it's only man that can handle that person. Who said so? Women can also do it. So these are the things that we agreed as a group, that to ensure that we have a smooth transitional justice and also get the never again, we have to make sure that women are not victimized in these things. Victimized doesn't mean that, okay, they were supported, empowerment. No. Women were victimized in a process that if your husband is taken to a jail, you end up being the head of the family, and that becomes a problem for you and your family as the woman. So we need to consider all those things. Huh? Thank you very much. I'll give my colleague to continue with the other points that we agreed.
Sorry. Okay. So our number 5 point was translate key concepts / words into local languages to avoid misunderstandings. Yes, everyone here has been talking about how we would make this the transitional justice domesticated so that people will understand. But what we are saying is, if you approach an uneducated person and tell them you are from the TRRC, even if you say I'm from the transitional justice, they start thinking, oh, that's a big deal. They don't know what true. I mean, they know what truth is, but like in their own terms, they don't know what justice is. They don't know what reparation is. So we need these words to be localized. We need these words to be made into their own understanding, where you would go and talk to these people without using any term that has to do with TRRC or any other thing. Like, all you need to do is say it into their languages, so they don't feel threatened. Like some of these people, when you start saying all these big words, they're not educated. As someone said there, you are not a court or something, but they start thinking, oh, if I say something, I might go to court or something. You need to tell them in their own words how they're going to understand. So these were the resolutions that we came up with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Like Kinta is reminding about civic education, it was very, very important to us as a group. It was dilated that it is important that we go and find the people where they are. That is, for example, if we want to reach very well and talk to the people, we should not only be placed in this like governor's office, community's office. No, those are the people that only attend programs. So what we suggest there was to go to the deeper end, to make sure that we avoid places that are commonly used as areas of sensitization. Like, for example, if you say North Bank, you say Kerewan. If you say CRR, you say Janjambure. If you say URR, you say Basse. So about changing time, changing then, we also need to understand. Finally, she talked about the using of local languages, which is very, very important. Let's say, for example, in Wolof and Mandinka, in Wolof Ngawa, come like Ggyghgy, Bolo, you know, and all those things. Ndampaili, in Mandinka you say, you know, Tonya, Sabati, you know, Cairo. So these are the things that we were trying to emphasize so that we all understand it. Huh? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause, please? They said they are not only talking to TRRC, but all the transitional justice mechanisms so that they can be very inclusive and address the concerns of everyone, including children and women. Now, can we have group 3? Group 3? Group 3, where were you? Group 3? Where? Oh my God, where were you?
Good afternoon to you all. My name is Maria Madanso, and on my right I have Mr. Chernoge and Lala. We are going to be presenting on behalf of Group 3, and then our task was on youth leadership and political representation. Cherno here would do the resolutions, and then we at our own level will add 1 or 2 things to whatever he's going to explain. But before we get to the resolutions, I think it's important for people to know what transpired and what led to the resolutions that we came up with. And then one of the reasons why we came up with the resolution is, why should youth be involved in the TRRC? That is the first question we should have asked ourselves. Not only the TRRC, but the entire process of the transitional justice as we speak. First is, why do young people shy away from political leadership or responsibility? One of the problems is the gender stereotype that we face in our country. When it comes to the side of education, most especially at home level, as girls, we were always trained to say yes to whatever that has been put on the table, whether you're in line with it or not. Sometimes, even when it comes to schooling, some of the programs that we do at university level has to be decided at parent level. So these are some of the problems that are affecting the advancement of young people when it comes to politics. And then also, lack of civic education. When you look at the educational curriculum of the Gambia, you can only do government when you are in the arts field. Now, and then all the other, all the other programs, we are all citizens. So I ask, do you need to know your responsibility as a citizen only when you're in the arts field? No. So it should cut across all sectors of educational system. These are some of the problems that why young people cannot advance into political leadership. And then also, why do we need to be involved in the TRRC? One, young people need to serve as institution of knowledge. Because today we are here, tomorrow we are going to man these positions. So we need to serve as eye-openers. So whoever is going to be in position tomorrow would know that if I violate the rights of people in this country, there's going to be a commission established, and we're going to look into your dealings as well. Because during the First Republic, there was a commission established. And then Barrow has established another commission, that is the Jani Commission and all these commissions. And hopefully when Barrow leaves office, we're also going to establish commissions that is going to look into the dealings that he was doing in this country. So it is going to serve as an eye-opener to each and every individual to take up the responsibility to do justice to their work. That is one. And secondly also, we need to promote the issue of the Never Again campaign. Why? We've seen that most young people used to be perpetrators of the said crimes that the commission would need to look into. So we cannot be victimized all the time. So we need to make sure such a thing never repeats itself again. So on that note, I'm going to invite Mr. Ggyghgy to talk on the resolutions that we've come up with.
Oh boy, that was some gal power. We, as he said, we were tasked to look at youth leadership and political representation. Now, first of all, when you hear the name transitional justice, the fact that this is a transition means that something seriously wrong must have happened in the past. And that is why I'm so much in for this campaign of Never Again. So the first resolution that we came up with is easy access to information for accountability and transparency. We are concerned about how this should be done because we want it to be action-oriented. The way we want this to be done is, one, we need favorable media laws. We need favorable media laws. And two, we also need enactment of the Information Act. That is something we are looking forward to. And three, we require that government institutions, ministries, and all government institutions make available in written form their periodic government briefings that they have. And fourthly, our government institutions, what we need from them, the TRRC and everyone inclusive, is regular updates of government websites with current and relevant information. Because not everyone can walk a prime ministry and ask for information or attend town hall meetings. But you can sit at the comfort of your home, get into the internet and see what the activities of the TRRC are. And finally, we need an open door policy for access to government information. On the issue of transparency and accountability, I'm particularly concerned about one thing. Because the reason why Jammeh became what he became is because there's a relationship between two agencies here. That is the leaders and the led. And that relationship, the responsibilities and the obligations owed to each party is not clear. We need to understand that as the people, we give the power. So the question becomes, who is more powerful? The people given the power or the people who are given the power? So we give our leaders the power, so the power comes from us. The relationship is supposed to be established in such a way that our leaders are supposed to understand that they serve us and they're accountable to us. And at the end of the day, they will be questioned for their services. So I believe in access to information, that is something else we need to talk about. Secondly, we talked about inclusive participation and decentralization of the entire transitional justice process. How do we want this to be done? One, we are looking at making local governments independent with their own independent budgets. I think this is really very important, which will take me to my next point. That's the amendment of the Local Government Act. Because the activities of the entire local governments are stipulated in the Local Government Acts. So we believe it needs to be amended, giving total independence to local governments to be able to act, make decisions, and decide their budgets on their own. To this very day, local government budgets have to be approved by the government. That is something we believe should not be happening. So they need to be independent. Thirdly, representation of all facets of society. In the TRRC, per se, we have seen imams, we have seen young people, we have seen women. So right now we are on the right footing. Women are represented, young people are represented, religion is represented. We also need to see the regions represented because the issue of decentralization really matters in this country. Everybody who graduates from the up countries is coming to the combos. I mean, it's saturated. It's difficult to even get a house for rent here because there is nothing decentralized in this country. You want an ID card, you have to come here. You want a passport, you have to come here. What we want is for everything that is happening here to happen in every other region, in every other single town and village in this country. Yeah. So that way, we would be able to say, decentralization is happening. And finally, community outreach. That is actually, I think it's part of the plan for the TRRC, community outreach, that is going down to the grassroots to meet the people. And in meeting them, the two previous groups, I think, mentioned something that is really very important. We suggest to Dr. Babagalle and his entire team that when you go to these local environments, use the local people. When you go to talk to these people directly, they see you as strangers. But when you use their own people to communicate with them, for these people to serve as the bridge between you and them, it becomes easier. We have a lot of young people who came from the regions, representing their regions. If you can talk to these people, then when you go to their regions to talk to their people, you use them, it becomes easier. Because they don't feel that they're talking to strangers anymore, because they have seen their own people being a part of you. So that's another suggestion that we are making. The third resolution we have is increased opportunity for right representation of youth and women in strategic positions of power and decision making. Now, how do we want to make this happen? One, the youths need to be represented by youths like themselves, chosen by themselves as well at all levels, that is at the NYC, in parliament, at the ministry, everywhere. This brings me to one point. That is the chairman of the National Youth Council we are against the idea that the minister has to select that person. We believe as young people, we meet at our young people events. We know who the capable, committed, and determined young people are. So it should be up to us to nominate, vote, select, whatever process you call it, who the person at the NYC should be. Because we are cognizant of the fact that the people that are with us through these small struggles, the people that go to this small young people gathering, they are the people who feel our pain. They are the people who know our needs. They are the people who know what our interests and what our concerns are. So they are the best and better people to represent us, and we are the best and the most accurate people to select them. So that is something we're looking for. We are also saying that the same goes when it comes to women representation, and I'm coming to a very important point. That is, the Ministry of Women Affairs need to be separated from the Vice Presidency. We need a separate Ministry of Women Affairs, where the affairs of women are exclusively dealt with by women and the people they choose to represent them in those areas. We have also seen that the Ministry of Women Affairs and the Women's Bureau, which is under it, by the way, during our deliberation, what we realize is they are more focused on issues affecting older women, and somehow the young girls are kind of neglected. So we are making the suggestion that we have a department or a part in the in the Ministry of Women Affairs or in the Women's Bureau that is dedicated to young girls, and we will have a young girl or a couple of young girls representing the interests of young girls in those departments as well. I'm not done. No. Yeah. And under this resolution, finally, we said the Ministry of Youth and Sports need to be separated from the ministry, need to be separated into two ministries. This is not the first time this resolution is coming up. The past two NECOFs I have been to, every time this resolution has been one of the most acute resolutions. We need the Ministry of Youth as a Ministry of Youth, and we need the Ministry of Sports as a Ministry of Sport. We need someone representing the interests of young people, and then we need someone representing the interests of sport, because sport is a technical area. We can have someone who is 90 in that area. We don't have a problem with that. But we need a young person standing for the young people in the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Can you turn it for me? And on the fourth resolution, which is increase youth and women participation in the party politics through youth and gender sensitive reforms. Now, how do we want to make this happen? One, we need party leadership to be rotational. Yesterday, when we were doing our deliberation, Maria Madanso said this: since the inception of UDP, Lawyer Dabo have been the party leader. Since the inception of APRC, Yaya Jammeh have been the party leader. So why is it that we cannot have other young people come up to lead these political parties? I mean, it's a piece of cake, you know. But you can't just keep drinking. Others are gonna die of thirst. So we believe it should be rotational. It should be rotational. You have your part, you have your time to do it. Let's say each political party member will lead the party for 10 years. That is where the issue of term limits come in. If we go in for election if you go in for election 2 times and you don't win, then step down, let us have someone else lead the political party. You are not lucky enough, then someone else will come with something else, and we will see if we can win. Yeah? And then we believe that there should be democratization and transparency in these political parties. There should be democratization, and that brings me to what Nyang was saying. Women cannot be the one clapping for the party, cooking for them, shouting and singing. They need to be given responsibilities, meaningful responsibilities. What a man can do, a woman cannot do. A woman can do even better. Yeah. So these are things we believe in. And where appropriate and accurate and necessary, women and young people need to be given the chance to represent. And finally, on this resolution, we believe there should be a constitutional mandate that will mandate the IEC to compel political parties to be more democratic, more transparent, and more accountable. Finally, which is the fifth resolution, the youth should be the agents of knowledge transfer through sensitization program, education, documentation, and advocacy. How do we want to do this? First, we want to make use of the art, music, poetry, drama, you name it. In fact, as a matter of fact, the first young people to work for the TRRC on the issue of sensitization is Chernoge and Omar Cham. After the launching of the TRRC, which I was invited to, we were asked by Mr. Tomasi, the special advisor to the minister, to make poems in the name of the TRRC to provide sensitization. So we made 4 poems, one in English, one in Fula, one in Mandinka, and one in Wolof. These poems were recorded and the audios were played in radio stations, and it was effective. And then we can have music songs made. We can have short dramas made about this issue, and then it will help. We can have caricatures made. So I think this is a way we can get the message out there. Secondly, we believe we should have social media campaigns. We should use Facebook. We should use Twitter. We should use WhatsApp and everywhere. But we all know that most of the greatest wars in this country have been fought on Facebook, and we don't want to see that. We want to see the young people using Facebook responsibly, objectively, not subjectively, for the good purpose, but not to provoke violence or to try to annoy someone, pin blame on someone, or point fingers. We want young people to start using Facebook for the right reasons, not for the wrong ones. Thirdly, we want to make use of already existing youth structures. The National Youth Council have branches in every single region in this country, and other institutions also have branches. I believe during the activities of the TRRC, you can make use of these branches. Some of them are very dormant right now, but they can be revitalized, re-energized, so that they will be able to serve the purpose for which they were created in the first place. And finally, we believe, we the people gathered here and everyone out there, we can make use of our various platforms in our organization as youth leaders. Each and every one of us here is from a particular organization that he or she is representing. And whether you are the errand boy or you're the president, you are a leader, you are serving a purpose. So we want us, the young people, to use these platforms to get the message out there, to start the issue of reconciliation, the issue of forgiving, the issue of compromise. We can start the campaign from our own small organization through our own little efforts. Because there's a Chinese proverb which says, little things done by little people in a lot of little different places in the world, when put together, is what it takes to change the world. So on that note, I would like to give a chance to my co-presenters to give their own comments.
Thank you very much, Cherno. It's like I don't have much to say. Cherno have said it all. But it's like one thing I also want to buttress on is on the fifth resolution that we have. That is the youth being the agent of knowledge transfer. If you look at this hall here, I can say most of us are teachers. Even if we are not teachers, we are change makers in one way or the other. So I believe if we are given the mandate and the role to spearhead all the sensitization process, we will be able to make changes. We can even start some of these things at our home. That is starting by family discussion. We can start from our own homes. We have our younger brothers, we have our younger sisters, we have our mothers and fathers at home. So we can start from there. And the other thing is about the right representation. If you look at it, like, I'm sorry to say this, but today, like someone, when I was young, when you tell me the minister of youth and sport, the first thing that I always expect to see is a young person. But like since birth up to date, I've not seen a young minister as a minister of youth and sport. So I think as youth, this is something that we need to fight for. Let us see a young person as our minister. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. These were some of the resolutions that were made. Just a piece of advice. Just a piece of advice to all the young people that are here. One of the key issues that we feel at the TRRC should have been our responsibility is how best we can make use of what we have to reconcile the people back. Most especially on our Facebook pages, because you are writing on your Facebook, but you don't know whose life you're changing at that moment. So make sure whatever you're going to put on social media out there, that it be something that is going to be responsible. And another thing also, we are trying to call for accountability from the side of the TRRC and the entire transitional justice. But it also takes responsibility. That is, we want to know how, where, and when, every single detail that is relevant for the public to know with regards to the TRRC. Because there were instances at the commission, the other commission, we've had issues and people are creating rumors. So we don't want such things to be repeated, and we don't want people to lose trust in you. So we are entrusting that in you, and we're advising every young person to make best use of whatever we are having. Few days ago, we've seen expenditures of the government being published outside, but people spoke against it. And what happened? A ban was levied on it. So which means our voices matter. So let us make best use of our Facebook platforms. If you are a singer, make sure you sing good about whatever is going to happen. If you are a talker like us, make sure you talk. If you're going to sleep on it, make sure we dream about it. And as we say, we are the young people. We are not tomorrow. We are today. We were yesterday. And hopefully, we are not going to be future leaders of tomorrow or whatever, but we are future leaders of now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are on Facebook or on Twitter, please use hashtag Youth TJ Summit 220. Hashtag Youth TJ Summit 220. Just to help us track. You may also try to, all right, if you need any image, your own personal photo or photos of this session, you can contact Maslam. He has abundance. You can also tag Joanna Rice. You can tag ICTJ. You can tag Gambia NYC. You can tag UNDP.
Youths from different organizations, international partners, I greet you all. We are going to talk about how to seek justice and truth through transparency, of course, to attain justice. And the transparency for that which should and can be transparent, and that which should and be confidential, as the Honorable Commissioner has earlier alluded. We are going to look at the roadmap. All that they have told you are various issues, but we are going to tell you the roadmap, and which is the TRRC Act, is what we are going to concentrate on. And may I give you a brief background of what the TRRC is and our presentation. Firstly, the 22 years of large-scale human rights violation and abuses under the oppressive regime of the ex-president Yahya Jammeh. That is what orchestrated, that is what propagated the TRRC. The commitment of the government of the Gambia under the leadership of Adama Barrow, his promise to bring human rights to be intact in the Gambia was also one of the things. The establishment of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission on the 13th of December 2017, we also recognize that Section 13, which I will quickly talk on, which is the aims and objective of the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission, says as such, that creates impartial historical record of violations and abuse of human rights from July 1994 to January 2017 in order to promote healing and reconciliation, respond to the needs of victims, address impunity, and finally to improve to prevent repeat of the violations and abuses suffered by making recommendations for the establishment of appropriate preventive mechanisms, including institutional and legal reforms, establish and make known the fate of whereabouts of disappearance individuals, provide victims an opportunity to relate their own account of violations and abuses suffered, and to grant reparation to victims. So this is a brief introduction of what the TRRC is. I'll now invite my co-presenters to take you through, just to highlight briefly. As I said earlier, we are coming with a difference. We are going to tell you what are the roadmap, and this we are recommending some amendments. We already know that the law is already in place, but notwithstanding, there's a possibility. This we believe, if it is followed, we will have something more proper. Thank you. I now invite Fatoumata Bondi to take from there.
Good afternoon. Okay, after going through some critical analysis, we have come up with the following resolutions. Firstly, that is to welcome efforts by the TRRC to sensitize people of the Gambia on the mandate of the Commission, and underscores that the continuation and proliferation of communication and outreach activities shall have a positive consequence on individual psyche, socio-economic and political transformations of the people of the Gambia, thereby strongly encourage that the TRRC engage in strategic interaction and apply soft influence on victims, perpetrators, witnesses, and the general public on all matters related to the mandate of the TRRC, particularly in convincing victims, perpetrators, and witnesses to voluntarily and openly cooperate with the TRRC in exposing the truth, for we stand for the truth. Secondly, we commend that the TRRC, in its demonstrated commitment to establish a true historical record of human rights violations and abuses in the Gambia, and encourage the Commission in so doing to purposefully interpret their mandate to include those incidents of national interest that occurred prior to 1994 during the First Republic, which contributed to the disgruntled conditions within the Gambia population and military that led to the 1994 coup d'etat, in particular the series of incidents that sparked the 1981 attempted coup d'etat and the human rights violation and abuses that followed suit. Thirdly, we urge the commissioners to fully appreciate the malicious intent of some persons to jeopardize the truth-seeking mandate of the commission through the concealment or distortion of facts, as well as the irrevocable detriment and revictimization of false information that might cause victims of human rights violation and abuses, and encourages investigators and researchers to thoroughly conduct their work, and further encourages commissioners to cautiously yet confidently and strategically select testimonies for public hearings. Fourthly, underscores the importance of proper investigations and research as a vital component of subsequent prosecutions. Therefore, urges that the TRRC ensures that the adequate funding of and applies the highest standard of professional integrity and service during all stages and investigation, particularly in the protection of evidence of serious human rights violation and abuses by persons who bear the greatest responsibilities. Finally, we request that the commissioners address in their final report the full spectrum of negative implications on the people of the Gambia on the absence and torture as a crime in the Gambia Criminal Code, and encourages that the report recommends an amendment to the Gambia Criminal Code to include torture. I hereby thank you all and pass.
Okay. Great deliberations. Yes, and number 6, it says, requests that all persons found to have participated or ordered a murder shall be recommended for prosecution, irrespective of the circumstances of their actions or their de jure or de facto powers. So it doesn't matter if you did the murder by personal will or you've been compelled to do so. The law creates no boundaries for both. Number 7, encourages the Commission to satisfy public expectations that the final report shall explicitly expose and implicate ex-President Jammeh, to be more specific, ex-President Yahya Jammeh, in serious human rights violations and abuses, including crimes against humanity. Number 8, expresses deep concerns over the eventuality that the Commission's recommendations to the President for prosecution of persons who bear the greatest responsibility for human rights violations and abuse may not be adopted, and requests that the necessary steps and amendments to relevant legislation be taken in order to bind the President to the prosecutions of all persons who bear the greatest responsibility for human rights violations and abuses. This is because it came to our knowledge that the President is given the privilege, the legal privilege to actually use his prerogative of mercy to actually pardon prisoners or accused persons, or still decide not to move on with the prosecution of some people that are being recommended by the TRRC, which we believe limits the power of the TRRC to that extent. So to give them much power, we therefore decided to recommend this. Number 9, urges in the strongest of terms that the Commissioner exercise their full set of powers to instigate the necessary deployment of or appropriate disciplinary measures against alleged perpetrators still working within the government apparatus, particularly persons accused of having committed sexual and gender-based violence against women and children, torture and murder, in order to avoid the tampering of evidence against them, the intimidation of victims and witnesses, and to restore general public confidence in the ability of the Commission to independently carry out its mandate without fear or favor. I think that's very clear. 10, stresses the important role of the Commission in healing the Gambian nation through reparations and reconciliation initiatives, and recommends that the reparation and reconciliation mandate of the TRRC is extended for 10 years after the submission of the final report and dissolving of the Commission, to enable the Secretariat to properly and continuously engage in the reconciliation initiatives, particularly in the memorialization of truths established by the Commission. This is because we believe that healing is not actually an act, instead it's a process, and it takes time before you're able to arrive at the height where we can say you've totally and fully healed. 11, requests that the national budget funds the entire cost of reparations from the TRRC to victims. It is known to us that only 4 million has been given, for transitional justice through, the entire transitional justice process, which is very limited because the Commission of Inquiry alone can actually swallow, 3/4 of that. not to talk about the TRRC and the hectic job that is coming. Even despite the support of foreign bodies, it's still not enough. So we request that the national budget funds the entire cost of reparations from the TRRC, because reparation is actually a state commitment. It's something that the government should do to show their will to actually help the victims heal and to show their understanding of whatever atrocity the victims have undergone. 12. Strongly urges the TRRC to prioritize reparations for direct victims of human rights violations and abuses, particularly those victims in dire need of medical attention, followed by children whose education has been compromised as a consequence of either direct or indirect human rights violations and abuses of their parents or guardians. It has come to our knowledge, all of us, that those that have been victims of torture are gradually dying. Like after every 3 months, someone will announce death. And most of those are actually victims of torture, victims of atrocities of prison, etc. So we believe medical attention should really be given to a lot of them. And even those that have lost their lives have their children drop out of school, some finding difficulties to get a scholarship, etc. So we therefore decided to prioritize this other area. Whilst I invite Mr. Alajaju to do the conclusion, we've decided to remain actively seized of the matter. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. After successfully post-morteming and diagonizing the 2017 TRRC Act, we, the group of truth-seeking, transparency and justice, are incredibly happy to propose these 12 resolutions under the leadership of our coordinator, Ida Persin and Mariama Singate. We wish to do what no group did by presenting this report right here before the honorable commissioners. Under your permission, Executive Secretary.
Put your hands together for Group 4. Put your hands together for Group 4. Anyway, the organizers will need your presentation, even if you submit it to the TRRC for our reports also. So don't forget to also submit it to us so that we can use it to compile the report. Thank you very much. Quite interesting having young people have a healthy conversation. I was surprised yesterday that some of the groups could complete their group work. At some point, I thought we'll be here till today and they will not agree. The amount of disagreement and the amount of conversation they had, I was like, we will never finish this. But I'm excited and I'm happy you are able to do this and finish it before the presentations. Before I give the floor to the members of the TRRC to respond, I want to say that we are very pleased. We are excited and we are appreciative of the effort of the government of the day for giving us the opportunity and the floor to be represented. When TRRC first came into being, the discussion started, and even before the law is put in place, we had healthy conversations with the Ministry of Justice, and we were also part of the national team that went around across the country to ensure that there was a conversation around what model and how will the TRRC be established. So we were not left behind. Do we have Babukar Kebe here? Is Babukar Kebe in the room? Where is he? Boss, I don't want to ask about you. As we speak, since that time, Babukar Kebe is representing young people, the Gambia National Youth Council and the entire young people in the core team, the technical working group for transitional justice and the TJ process. So our voices have been on the table. When the TRRC was also put up, we were written to formally to say, we need your representation, your representative in this committee. In other circumstances, it could have been politicized, it could have been hijacked, it could have been another person picking anyone to say is going to represent young people. But they wrote to the National Youth Council and said, you need to send us a representative. We did not also just sit in our office and identify one. We advertise online, we advertise offline, we send information to our regions, we even put it on newspapers to say, young people who are interested, these are the conditions, these are the guidelines, this is the tax, and this is the mandate. Please express interest. Young people wrote and expressed interest and put up their case. We identified independent panel to go through this application and shortlist 10 of them. The 10 were shortlisted, and the panel sat over with them for an interview, and 3 were identified. These 3 persons were the ones whose names were submitted to Ministry of Justice as the nominees from the National Youth Council representing young people for one of them to be appointed. And they include Musubakoto Sao, Seniba, and Mustafa Ka. As we speak today, Mustafa Ka, seated right in front of us, has been approved and appointed as a member of the TRRC representing young people. Further to that, government of the day, when the constitutional review also came, they wrote to us to say, give us a representative to be in this committee. And we had provided a representative. So I am just highlighting this because this is our platform as young people. We might be asked, how are we being engaged? So that we all know that we are not being left behind, but we are part of this process. In fact, we are ahead of most of the constituencies in terms of engagement in this process. We are even leading the TRRC. We are far ahead. We had established Children's Network, working with them, and we had also get our representatives and doing some sensitizations already. So thank you very much. We hope this engagement will continue, that us, the young people, will continue to work with our government, appreciate, and also question where necessary. So now we'll change the flow of the discussion. You have heard from our young people. Now we want to hear some response from members of the TRRC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again, Lamin, and thanks to all the groups that presented. Now, we have a lot of answers to make, so I just speak on a few things, and then I'll hand over to the commissioners to also express their views. Now, one thing I want to say is that I want to nominate all of you as ambassadors for the TRRC in your areas. All of you represent your country, represent the TRRC in your areas, and if you wanted to give us your contact details, we'll be happy to take them, and we'll follow up with you. We need to take this country forward. We need to move this country forward. We need to transform this country, and we can only do it with your participation. So all of you are hereby nominated TRRC ambassadors. Thank you. We are not kidding. We are not kidding in this commission. You know, we are going to make real changes in this country. You know, we are tired of saying the youths are the future leaders of this country without actually giving you the tools to make you the present and future leaders of this country. So take it up. It's your commission. Run with it and do what you need to do. Okay? That's the deal. Now, I'm going to talk about the media. I understand that media access is going to be better going forward. Most of the draconian laws have been reviewed, and hopefully soon all of the draconian media laws are going to be repealed so that we'll have more freedom of association and expression. Now, as far as the TRRC's engagement with the media is concerned, we have had 4 training sessions for journalists in this country so far. In June, we had 2 training sessions one for journalists on reporting truth commissions, because reporting truth commissions is different from reporting your ordinary day-to-day activities. So we had two training sessions for journalists in June. The other one was training the role of media in truth commissions or transitional justice processes. Just this month, we also had one training for editors as gatekeepers in the transitional justice process. And just last week, we had three. I mean, this week that's just ending, we had a 3-day training by international experts for journalists on, conflict-sensitive reporting, because the media are one of our key partners in this process, and we need to make sure that they understand what we're trying to do, and they also are sensitive to the fact that reporting truth commissions is not your usual reporting of everyday events. Now, if you don't know, the TRRC also has a Facebook page, so please go there and like it. We have a TRRC. If you search Truth, Reconciliation, Reparations Commission on Facebook, the page will come up, and we normally post all our updates and every information we have, piece of information we have on our Facebook page. We are developing a website that will be launched very soon. And of course, we have a very dynamic outreach coordinator who's developed a Twitter handle as well. Imran Dabo here tweets all the time. So please follow the TRRC and contribute to the discussion. Now, regarding the mandate, just briefly, the mandate of the TRRC is from 1994 to January 2017. And unfortunately, we cannot go back to 1981, for example, because we simply wouldn't have the resources and the time to do it. But of course, the context is very important to whatever we're going to do. We have a very dynamic research and investigation unit, and a very dynamic director of research and investigations, and they are doing an excellent job of getting the initial witnesses and so on and so forth. I think you all know that the TRRC is going to be launched on October 15, right? October 15, the TRRC will be launched, and then the first hearings will be started as soon as possible after that. Let me just allow say one more thing and allow the commissioners to also speak. In terms of victims needing urgent medical attention, the TRRC Secretariat is in contact with the Victim Center, and we are trying to work on something, on a plan that we'll table before the commissioners to make sure that the victims that need urgent medical attention today get urgent medical attention today, rather than wait for a long time to come. Also, the TRRC Secretariat has been working with UNICEF and the Victim Center to develop a scholarship scheme whereby the children who lost their parents during the previous regime will have scholarship support to continue their education. And we are working on both of those projects right now. Thank you very much.
Youth, I come once more just to say a few words, but not quite few. The first one is on gender issues. It is not a deliberate effort to suppress women or girls. It is the nature of our culture and of our upbringing, which I am glad you are now standing to defend and to create a new opportunity for the girl child. But it is also the responsibility of the girls to realize that they want to be something else in their life. They should work hard and achieve the various responsibilities that will come in their way, because it's a question of choice and it's a question of qualification. If you're not qualified, you cannot get the job. So, I will encourage, and you should now take up this responsibility to go and educate the girls. Talk to them. Talk to the girls of this country to become more ready and to participate in politics and every aspect of life, so that they can take full responsibility for their role in this country. On the question of party politics, we have seen it all over. One person is the godfather, he is the father, and he is the grandfather. Nobody else matters. He is the party leader, the godfather, the grandfather. I'm glad it's emanating from your own thoughts that this is not viable and it's not workable. And certainly it is not. So as youth, I think the steps you are taking are very, very encouraging, and that you should follow it up, creating the opportunity for education, educating your peer groups, helping them to realize what is on board, and helping them to get somewhere. The other point I want to talk on is about truth seeking. As I had said earlier, it is not from a single window. It is from several windows. And I'm glad all these parameters have been put in place to ensure that we get to the actual truth. And once we get there, we should defend it. What is probably wrong with us is that we are too passive and too respectful and too accepting people to sit on our heads. We should, as a people, have our own consciences, because it's your conscience that is most important. You must be able to walk your own way out, and the process also influence others in the best interest of the people. So the party politics thing is our own making. We rally behind one man and we clap and clap and clap, and it never ends. We should stop it. If somebody is a party leader for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, he should stop. He should go away. Even if he has been winning elections, he should go away. And we should make that really the policy of the country. But it is you the youth who are coming up. You are the ones. Bring this change. We, in our old days, didn't have the chance to do that because there were too many forces against you as a person. On the question of never again, it's still our choice. We have to choose whether that is what we want. Never again. So is that what we want? If that is what we want, we should ensure that we create the atmosphere for it, create the educational situation, and ensure that everybody becomes conscious. Mark you, in the old days, when the PPP started in this country, there were people who sacrificed, who went on foot and on bicycles to create the new awareness of the political structure in the country. And that's how PPP emerged as a major party in this country. So if you want to do that, we don't have to wait for vehicles. We don't want to wait for stipends. We should go out and ensure that we create this atmosphere. Thank you.
Hello. Some of the issues raised here, I will focus on the outreach. Someone said we should go deeper down to the communities. The guy emphasized one of the groups, decentralization. Yes, we are quite aware of this, and we have already in place some strategies. That's why even the town hall meetings are not all going to be held in the urban area. They are going to be everywhere in the country. And it's not only going to be town hall meetings, it will also be Bantaba meetings and so on. Focus group discussions and so on. A multimedia approach will be strategized. Yes, some of the languages, some of the slogans or advocacies will be translated into local languages. We've even proposed T-shirts, leaflets, flyers, name them. So yes, we will go out rigorously, and we will go to reach the most remote place in the country. We will try to reach. But as Baba Galle has said, um, each of you is already on board as an ambassador. And I'm sure we all come from different areas in this country. That's the beauty about it. So someone said in the presentation, we start from our homes, discuss with our brothers, sisters, aunts, and so on. So it's a collective responsibility. Let's all go and talk very well. Someone said, yes, the reparation has to take something like 10 years or so. Yes, of course. Because the reparation is what is directly linked to the never again. You know, you will repair and don't want it to come back again. So your repair must be consolidated. Your reparation must be consolidated, even beyond the terms, the period provided for the commission. Mr. Jallo's point on girls, you know, maybe it's not only the culture, it's to some extent natural, that women are largely seen as objects of attraction rather than competitors among their peers. Very seldom you have the top cream in the class to constitute girls. Many a times, if it does, it is only in the early ages. The moment we started recognizing our features, the trend changes. I'm a parent, and I know. What our women need to do now is to compete with us. They must build that self-confidence and don't allow themselves to be seen as material anymore, but subjects of purpose. With that determination, they will compete. Look, when positions are available, it is competency we look at. Competency. Now, if that is the yardstick, that's the criteria, we will start making our ticks against competency and not against age or gender or whatever. Yes, of course, when there is a serious imbalance, it's almost, I'm not sure, but when we continue saying balance, 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 we are becoming unfair to ourselves. What is wrong? An application, a post is advertised. Apply. Apply. Who applies? It's not gender the issue now. It's the qualification. So please, girls, come out of yourselves and compete with men and boys. Yes, you can make it. But that's the determination you must get to remedy what is happening largely. You have to be responsible of it, your destiny. Well, I'll stop here. I'm sure my colleagues will have more to say.
I think most of what I want to say has already been said. But one of the things I am tasked to do as part of the Never Again campaign is to be going to schools and to be talking to students. So that's another dimension of the outreach program that we will be having. So I'll definitely be working with Babukar, probably the National Youth Council, and also a lot of you. So that's important because I think we have a lot of concentration of young people in the schools, and obviously these are the potential leaders. So we have to reach out to them and capture their minds now and imbibe and sow the seeds of change in those minds. And hopefully in a few years' time, that would be results for this country. Somebody also mentioned the issue of the Constitution. Customary laws are part of the Constitution. But there is also a benchmark under Section 7. There is also a benchmark. So if customary law is against equity, natural justice, and good conscience, it cannot hold water in the eyes of the law. That's something we have to bear in mind. On the issue of the hearings are not just going to be held in one place, and they are not just going to be done in one language. What I want to say is that the composition of the commissioners speaks to the fact that we have almost all the major ethnic groups represented here. And we do have people who, in fact, have not gone through the mainstream education system. So that shows you the diversity of the commission. That is also going to reflect on the hearings. We are going to have hearings that will be done in the local languages, and the hearings will not just be done in Banjul or in Combo. They will be taken to different parts of the country, possibly to Bolibana, is it? Or Fatoto, if Bolibana, okay, if possible. In terms of gender, the best way to change that is through education. We have to make sure that women, I always say this, we have to make sure that women and girls are in schools. And if you look at the trend in the country, I was part of the Ministry of Education for some time. You see, the representation at the primary school, lower basic is good. But as you climb the ladder, coming to senior secondary to university, it begins to decline. But why is that happening? That's what we have to investigate, and we have to make sure we solve those problems. Issues of early marriage, issues of probably the affordability, and those kind of things. Because there may be the fact that education was made free at some point, but how free is that education? Those are things we need to interrogate. And we need to make sure that the issues that make it difficult or impossible for these girls and these women to go to school are addressed. Girls have to be encouraged. Because it's not going to help the country if we just have men continuing to lead. Women have to be part of the leadership, and they must be given the opportunity, and they must lead. Because I know if women lead, they make better leaders than even some of us men. And to the young people, I'm just surprised all you are talking about is youth and sports ministry. Is that the only ministry we can man in this country? We got to dream bigger, guys. We can even man the presidency. I'm not trying to politicize this, but if you want representation, we must not just say that we want to man the Ministry of Youth and Sports. It must go beyond that. In other countries, you have people manning portfolios other than that. But beyond and above that, even at the grassroots level, and here is where I challenge my fellow young people. We talk a lot. We want representation. But sometimes we are not willing to walk the talk. Okay? Just like he said, sometimes the processes are open that people have the right to apply. For some of this, for the women to apply, we are not also applying. And I do think if competent young people apply through the political parties, if you are competent and you prove your competence, you would be given the chance to lead. But unfortunately, we just sit and we say what? Youth must be represented. It has become a slogan, but it must become an action too. Malcolm X said, the price of liberty is death. I'm not saying go and kill yourselves, but you must be willing to participate as well. Nobody is going to give you that participation on a silver platter. I am an example. I did participate in 2017 in the parliamentary elections. I had a lot of support from the young people. Babakar is here, and a lot of young people were behind me, Cherno, and it felt good. But this is what we have to encourage. Okay, Champion is saying I also have to say, because I mentioned Cherno, they are rivals. But this is the idea. This, you know, I know I've spoken a lot already, but all I have to say that the country belongs to young people, and young people are going to be the most important participants of the TRC process. You are not going to be left behind. You are going to be included, as is already the case. I told you already that even when I am with my fellow commissioners and even with Baba Gale, my views are respected. Nobody disrespects my views. They listen to me, and they are willing to hear my perspective on youth issues. That's a good starting point. So make sure you make good use of these structures. Make sure you participate so that we can change this country together. Thank you.
I really don't know where to begin. The session was excellent in terms of the information that we got. My fellow commissioners have spoken to some of the issues. But I just want to emphasize that it's not going to be easy. It was never easy, and it will never be easy. So youths don't think it's going to be easy for you, just as we women know that it will never be easy for us. the socio-cultural factors in our societies are greater than any of the laws that we pass. The Gambia has got one of the best laws in terms of women and children. We have domesticated all those things that you're talking about, the CEDAW, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of women, the UN Charter. All those things have been domesticated into our laws. In 2010, we were so proud of our Women's Act. In 2016, the act was revised to put in new clauses relating to women. That is the issue of FGM and the issue of domestic violence. But it is the very governments who pass those laws who violate the laws. Because if we have agreed that women should be represented 33% in all the decision-making processes, and we end up by getting 11% in cabinet, 9% in the legislature, worse in the councils, then what is the point of us having all these laws? And our laws must be respected. And the people who implement those laws must know that those laws exist. Most of them don't even know that the laws exist, mind you. Because they enter into these positions and don't know about all these things that are happening. So it is always up to us to call their attention. But then the disappointing thing is that you will have women leaders. So don't make that mistake, that by being a woman, you occupy a position of leadership, you're going to be there for the women's interest. Don't make that mistake. And don't make the mistake of thinking that if you're a youth and you are put into a leadership position, that you are going to represent the youth. Some people, the minute they enter those positions, the African saying that when your mouth is full, you don't talk. They cannot talk, so they don't talk anymore. So these are the issues that we are going to address in the Never Again agenda, that people have to be sincere in what they say and in what they do. And my dear fellow commissioners, let me tell you one thing about women not taking leadership positions in this country. Apart from the socio-cultural factors, the women themselves really want those positions. But their triple roles and responsibilities means that they cannot. When I became the director of schools, I looked at our ministry and discovered, you remember that case, that we needed to promote 500 teachers. I made sure that the majority that were promoted were teachers. And they all turned down their, most of them, not all. 75% turned down their promotions. Because they couldn't go to the rural areas. For the simple reason that they had got family responsibilities. If it is not your children or your husband, it's your sick mother or your old mother or some other thing. And this was me fighting so hard for women, and they came and they cried and said, Mrs. Sosa, leave us to be senior teachers in a category C school. Don't make us a head teacher in a head B school or a head A school. And these are the things that we are talking about, the invisible barriers that hold us back. The glass ceiling, we want to rise. You reach there, you hit your head against the wall, and you break your skull. So this is Gambia. This is what we are living in. We pass laws on sexual violence. And today, as I speak, I'm sure they are raping a girl somewhere in the Gambia. Last month, I was at a funeral when Hadija Tujalo died. I'm sitting at the funeral. They call some woman and say, your maid has been raped in a shop in broad daylight. 2 men raped this girl in a shop. Where were the neighbors? Not the Gambia I grew up in. I said this the other day, that the only time I heard of a rape was when I was a child. A child was raped at the parochial hall not far from our house. And that rapist will never rape again. Because when the women were ready for him, at that time all the men used to go to work, only the women were at home. They came with those who were cooking their wood. They burnt him with their wood. Those who were pounding came with their pestles, and they beat him with their pestles. Those who were sewing took their needles. By the time the police came, the man was also almost dead. We have lost that community spirit. All we are doing is looking away. You see a child crying in the street, you don't want to know. I'm sure the people, that girl who was being raped, other people saw her and they just preferred to look away. This is not the Gambia that we used to know and grow up in. Let us bring our community spirit back. A nation united, divided itself against itself can never stand. Let us be reunited. Somebody just asked me to talk about my childhood, and I told them I grew up in Dingare, 12 Fagan Street. We lived with Sarahules, we lived with Jolas, we lived with Manjagos, we lived with Portuguese, we lived with Lebanese, we lived with all types of people. We went to the same schools, and there was no distinction between any of us. So now what is happening? Everybody is proud to say, I'm a Mandinka, I'm a Wolof, I'm a this. Thank God me, I'm none. Because I'm so mixed up, I don't even know what I am. Now, the thing again that I really want to talk about is we have to support our women folk. We have to support our youth. Because really, if you want our youth, Mustafa spoke about it. And we have to look behind the statistical data. They will tell you that Gambia has reached 90% gender parity in schools. That is the statistical data for the nation. Go to CRR. You don't even have 11% of the children in school. You go to URR, it is even worse. So these, which girls are you talking about then? If the girls start primary 1 and by primary 6 they have already left school, or they've got married, and our law says no child should get married before the age of 18, and up to today they are getting married. You say no more FGM, and up to today there is FGM. So, and if you went to the police to report, the police will go this way and that way, and before you know it, the case is out. And people really have to insist that the laws that exist must be implemented. The police, the last time I saw some police officers who were being trained on gender-based violence, and they were saying that they did not even know that these laws exist. If you don't laugh, this is not funny. If you know that these laws don't exist, how are you going to implement it? How? So, Babagale has made you an ambassador. Being ambassadors is not easy, oh. He has told you that when you are passionate about something, you don't need money. You don't need transport. You will talk, as you have said, with your families at home. You will talk with your communities. You will climb mountains to ensure that what it is that we want, that we will achieve it. We have said that never again are we going to be subjected to the issues of violence that happened in this country. Our country was raped. Our assets were stolen, they were taken. Our children were killed. Our husbands were taken away, our wives. There is this young girl, I met her in Mali. She's Gambian, she came to Mali. And when I asked her what her name was, her mother was one of those NEA officers, the drug officers, who were arrested. Her mother was beaten and stamped until she lost her pregnancy. And recently the mother died, just to confirm what you're saying. They tortured you 3 years ago, you will die now. You didn't die on the spot. Some died on the spot. Some have died of shame. Some have died of trauma. I know that one of the Brikama victims, these were the early victims. One of them died of shame. He came out and he was quiet. His family kept on asking. He said, I cannot explain to you what children, what people younger than my children did to me when I was in that prison. A few months after he died. So Gambia, what are we living with? How can we go to bed and sleep at night? Either we were silent onlookers, we turned our faces away and didn't want to know, or we were active participants, and we thank God for the few vocal ones who stood up and said no. And it is those ones who said no, who brought the thing to a limelight, and who brought Gambia to the attention of the world community. Because if you are quiet, other people don't want to know them. So we have listened to you. We have heard you. We are going to take action. We are going to work with you. And I want to just say that at the level of the TRRC, they have done excellent work in choosing women leaders. I cannot name all of them, but they have women in all the key positions. And not only as deputies, but as heads of their various, of their various divisions. For us, the commissioners, Mustafa has already told you that we have all the regions represented. Some of them cannot even speak a word of English. But that is good, because they'll be able to communicate with the Mandinkas and the Wolofs much more than I can do. I can tell you that we will reach every outpost in this country. Not if you cannot be there, you will be there for us, other people will be there for us. We need to talk to our people. We need to change people's minds. Because there are so many people in denial in this country. The denial is those people who say it's a witch hunt. But for those people who have lost their children, whose fathers have died, whose parents have disappeared, they know that this is not a witch hunt, this is a reality. We will try to be as fair, as impartial, and as objective as we can. I want to thank you all for your resolutions, but for the last group, in particular, all of you, your resolutions are good, but I just want to say I agree with everything that you have said, group 4, except resolution number 7. Resolution number 7 is prejudicial. That is the one that says that we must explicitly expose and implicate Jame. That we are doing even before we start establishing the truth. After we establish the truth, if the truth implicates him, then we will implicate him. But we have to wait until we get there. I am glad that I really, really made time to be with you people. I think I've covered all. Have I left out anything? Okay, so once again to tell you that we are with you. We are with you. For us, we have an open door policy. For those who know me, know that I am accessible. The only bad thing is I never know where my telephone is. But 90% of the time, when mobile phone started, I said, I don't want a mobile phone. Why don't you want a mobile phone? I was working with these people from Germany. They said, Madam, we will buy you one. I said, look, I don't want it. Because I know that I will never be able to use it. I'll be leaving it in all the wrong places. The later Hassan Saleh, he said, give her one and I'll make sure she'll be keeping it in her collar. Because she never leaves her collar behind. So if she doesn't leave the collar behind, she will not leave the telephone behind. So that is it. I am assuring you that we are there for you. We are Gambians like yourself. Forget about the age difference. Elizabeth is looking at me. She will tell you that if they go to boot camps, I follow them to boot camps. The only thing I don't do is do their challenges. Their fire challenges and their water challenges. But I am with them all the time. And so like with you, feel free. Somebody has said young people cannot talk to adults and adults cannot talk to young people. It depends on who the adult is and who the young person is. It also, Mr. You're the one who spoke about it, so I will not go into it. But our people, they preach things. It's always walk the, do as I say, but don't do as I do. Our democratic institutions, our political parties, they're the most undemocratic institutions in this country. All of them, they started with the same head of the party. The party has never changed. The structures in the parties have never changed. Even when the women want to start up, you've been naming names like Nimasata, etc. They went to the top, but when they were ready to cut them down to size. So I was there. Nima is a former colleague. So we are the ones that can change when we have positive behaviors. Let us have positive behaviors. Let us reach out to each other. Let us try to establish the truth. People hear what they want to hear. Let me tell you that I have said this for a long, long, long time. Because I've worked in education and I know people. You can be telling them, Nang len jubo, nang len neka bena, nang len dego. You turn your back, huh? We are not in the business of fooling anybody. We are in the business of establishing the truth. We are in the business of trying to reconcile our nation. We are in the business of trying to give reparations where reparations is due. Not all reparations can be given. Some will be individual, and some will be collective. We cannot hear all the cases because we only have 2 years, and by the end of the 2 years, we have to give a report. So for some, it will just be the trends. If we were I'm just talking off my head, but if we were looking at journalists, for example, we will look at the trends in what happened to the journalists. Closure of media houses, beating of journalists, deportations, etc., etc. And then now, how are we going to make reparations to the journalists? They suffered. They really suffered for 22 years. I think from 1994, the students came in by 2000. But the journalists from day one, they suffered the most. So on that note, I think I have said most of the things that should be said, but the dialogue continues. It's not ending here. I think.
All right, thank you very much. Moments like this, I always want to witness and see how we demonstrate youth power. So I need someone to definitely help us give this, the commissioners, a special round of applause. Who want to lead that, please? Who want to lead that? And we need a special one that will bring out the youth energy. Yes, so you can come here. Quickly, quickly. All right.
We're going to give them a motorbike clapping. Yes. Okay, you have to hold the mic for me so I can demonstrate.
All right, so please, let's look at her. She is going to demonstrate, and we are all going to do that. Special motorbike clap. Except the commissioners. We are going to clap for you. No, you can sit down. We'll clap for you and the minister. Please, can we please follow? We are going to clap for the commissioners for their wonderful, timely response being with us. This is the motorbike club. Thank you very much. All right. As per our program, we will be breaking here for lunch break and prayers. But from there, we'll want to also beg the indulgence of our guests to join us for the lunch. And from lunch, we want to have the closing and awarding of certificates to the participants. But sincerely, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank our guests and for responding to all our questions, our concerns. And I'm sure we are going home very light. The burdens are all gone, and now we are free like birds to go and spread this message. So all the ambassadors, you are no more the youth delegates. You are the ambassadors. All the ambassadors present here, we have your contacts. Please, before you go, if you think you need to change anything on your contact, both email and telephone, see Kausu, because doctor is already saying we will reach out to you, and we'll have to forward that list to doctor. And also, I'm sure we'll have your commitments from here, what you're going to plan to do at family level, at your community level, or at your school level to spread this message. We will also work on some materials, IC materials, and so that we are able to use you and work with you to deliver those messages and information. But please, let's all have some commitments. At the closing, we are going to pick sample do some sample tests to give you the mic to tell us from here, what do you have in mind? What are you going to do at your school level, at your family level, at the community level, or at your regions level? So we may not be able to talk to all of you at the moment, but prepare. It could be you, it could be her, it could be him, it could be any one of us during closing.